Okay.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mirna, and on behalf of the Mindalia TV team, we want to welcome you to Mindalia live streaming, where thousands of people around the world gather to see the lectures and interviews organized by Mindalia TV. Today with us, Angel Rebo, CEO consultant, TV host, international public speaker, and president of the Wisdom for Kids Foundation, is bringing us Joni Patry. She is a Vedic astrologist, and she helps people guide in their life through understanding their soul essence, karma, and potential future. Before starting, we want to remind you that Mindalia is a nonprofit organization. Our mission is to help raise the level of consciousness around the world, sharing content that can just shift your mind. We want to remind you that while we are live streaming, like right now, we have the active chat is the screen that you're going to be seeing on my side. Through there, you can interact with us, let us know your questions. We just please ask you to follow the format, word question in caps, and the actual question in relation with the conference that we're going to be having here today. Last but not least, Mindalia broadcast every weekday in Portuguese through Mindalia Televisão, in Spanish through Mindalia TV, and as you already know, in English through Mindalia TV English. So we invite you to visit our different channels, find out what we're developing there, and we also invite you to collaborate with us, sharing your own personal content, your valuable information. For that, you can go to our website, click on the top of the page. That link is going to take you to a form that you can fill out, and our technical team will be contacting you. I'm not going to entertain you any longer. I'll be leaving you with Angel and Mrs. Joni Patry. Guys, welcome to Mindalia live streaming. The screen is yours.
Thank you very much, Mirna. Thank you very much, Mirna. And thank you very much, Joni, for being here with us today. Welcome to Mindalia TV.
My pleasure.
Absolutely. While you were being introduced today by Mirna, I heard this word Vedic. Was it Vedic? Vedic. Okay. Yeah. So would you mind sharing with our audience, what does Vedic mean?
Okay. Vedic astrology is the astrology from India. And it uses a specific system that I believe is far more accurate than the traditional Western tropical astrology. It uses sidereal astrology, which is actually the true placements of where the planets are astronomically. If you ask an astronomer, he will give you the same placements that we're looking at. So it's different, but what Vedic is known for is prediction. And in my experience, that's why people come to an astrologer. They want to know what to expect in the future. Now, do I think everything is foreseen in the future? No, because we have free will. But if you don't change or do the necessary things that the chart could be revealing to you, then you're going to see that you have the option to do something a certain way to avert things. So I look at astrology as a weather forecast. Mm-hmm. If you know it's going to rain, wouldn't you bring an umbrella? But these are the cycles. These are the planetary cycles that pretty much dictate a lot of the things that are happening on Earth. But human beings are a part of that, because what I always say is, as above, so below. So what is going on within us is reflected outward as likely as what is out there is reflected within us. So everything is connected, and that's what astrology is.
Why do you think that people is fascinated about the fact of knowing the future?
Because you can better control things. I mean, you can better dictate things in your life that can make life so much easier. And if you know your talents, your gifts, what you're best at, then I believe it's like getting a map, a road map. Wouldn't you do better if you had a map rather than just going anywhere, unconscious? But this gives you consciousness. And it really does tell you about your soul, who you really are, what you've come here to do. And I believe that with all of this information, you can better direct your life.
Is astrology related to the stars, really?
Absolutely, absolutely. The stars are, as they revolve and as they move, the constellations and groupings of stars can really be all about people awareness. You know, as many people say, it's in the stars, or, you know, thank your lucky stars. What are people saying when they say this? That this is I call astrology the divine order of the universe, because this is an order. And really, what a lot of people don't realize, it's extremely mathematical. And really, everything in science does boil down to math. And people that don't know what astrology is really about, they're amazed at all the mathematical formulas that we have to take into account. When I look at a chart, like, for example, if I were to look at your chart, I need your day, year, time, and place of birth, because it's a different time in different areas of the earth. And from that, we look at where all the planets are relative to the stars. So the groupings of stars are basically like the signs. And where the planets revolve in relationship to the stars from our vantage point on Earth is how we can make our predictions and how we can see who you are. But it's very specific, down to the minute is what we're looking at to see what is going to be happening, not only from who you are and what you're here to do, but where you're going. Because as the planets continue to move throughout a horoscope is how we make our predictions. It's fascinating.
It is. So, okay, so for someone that really wants to know or wants to do better in life, when they see, you call it a chart?
Yes.
Okay, so they see their chart, so everybody has a chart?
Yes.
Okay, so they see their chart, and in their chart, they see different astrological, let's say, connections or connections with.
Yeah, I would call it connections.
Okay, good. Why is our life connected to those astrological connections? Why is that?
That is a very good question, because everything's connected and everyone is connected. And what I find really amazing is I can see everyone in your family in your chart. And you wonder sometimes what kind of destiny is involved with marriage and relationships, because there's a certain person that you're meant to come together with. And also to experience the karma of your soul, because I believe people and relationships are the most important thing for us to really develop and know what our karma is, because we know how people can make us happy, push our buttons, make us angry. But that's all in the lessons we're here to learn, human relationships. And really, when you get down to the bottom of things, I believe the most important thing of all is love and the heart-centered energy. All of this is really seen in a chart, believe it or not. But let me go back to what Vedic astrology came from India, which is the system that in India, everyone has their chart done. And many years ago, there were town or city astrologers, village astrologers, where they would predict and put together people for marriage. When a child is born, they do the chart. It's very much a part of this system that astrology is a huge part of their world and living. And I think it's catching on here even. But, here we have the Western astrology, which is so personality oriented. When you think of yourself as a sign, you associate with that personality type. But Vedic is more about the whole process of your life and prediction and direction. And of course, spirituality, because what they say in India is, if you know thyself, you know everything in the universe. And that's what astrology is teaching us, to really know thyself.
So another question that comes to my mind is, okay, so we are born and we are part of a system. What about our life before coming to this world? And what about the life after?
Okay.
Do we still belong to that system?
Well, in India, recognize that reincarnation is a very big part of Indian beliefs and culture. And the chart, in my opinion, tells you exactly who you were and what everything's about from the many lifetimes that we've lived before. I mean, it just makes sense that the reason why we're born the way we are is relative to what we were before. And the chart really does give us some accumulation of all the lifetimes and what lessons you're here to learn through your past. And most of all, how you can change your future to overcome the karmas, overcome the difficulty, to eventually grow beyond this world where we come to a point of what we call enlightenment. Actually, in Vedic astrology, we say something called moksha. Moksha, there's certain houses, and when we look at a chart, it can get very complicated because first we're looking at the planets and signs, but there's also the houses. And the houses are the segments of the wheel that tell us what area of our lives are important and what we're here to grow through. So everything, and I'm not even kidding you, everything is in a chart. Relationships, health, spirituality, psychology, but this is going to be a system that will answer really any questions anyone has about their past, present, and future in life.
Why do you think that this is not more present in everybody's life? Why are not people more informed, acquainted with, or why is it not even taught at some levels? I mean,
it's very true. Well, I'll have to say that in ancient times it was. We've fallen away from this with the materialism of the world and getting away from the spirituality and the truth of our soul. People have become just in a different realm, preoccupied. And so many people think that astrology is nonsense. I guarantee you the people who think it's nonsense have never studied it. Many skeptics have gone into this and they've usually come out non-skeptics because you can't deny what the chart is telling you. And then when it happens, people kind of wake up. And you know what I like to do is I take the chart just before I start a reading and I'll go into some of the past dates and times of things. And when I nail these things, they're kind of, okay, then then I have their attention. They're paying attention. But because, you know, it just seems so illogical. How can the stars and the planets have such an effect on us? And to be perfectly honest with you, I don't know how it works, but I know that it does work. I think personally, it's something beyond our comprehension. It's something beyond the physical, because just like emotion and love, you can't prove it scientifically. But there is something in the vibrational field that it happens. And it's just like intuition or connection to people around the world. You can think of them and they know. And it doesn't matter where you are on the planet. There's some kind of energy force like this that astrology is a part of. But it is definitely real. And we are all connected. And like I said, the stars are the essence of the signs. And as they evolve, it really does dictate humanity as well as you individually in your chart. But there's these huge cycles in astrology that cannot be denied. One of them is called precession of the equinoxes. And what that's about is that over the course of 26,000 years, this whole cycle of humanity will evolve. And as you probably heard, we're entering on the age of Aquarius. So right now, we're in the age of Pisces. And 2,000 years ago was the beginning of the age of Pisces, which what happened 2,000 years ago that we can all think about? The birth of Christ. And that was the start of the age of Pisces. What is the symbol for Pisces? The fish. What is the symbol for Christianity, which started 2,000 years ago with the age of Pisces? The fish. And you see, this is a broad scale cycle. We're entering on the age of Aquarius, which is the onset of the technology and the big changes that are happening. We're not in Aquarius yet, but when we do go into the age of Aquarius, it's going to be amazing because there will not be so much contention and fighting over beliefs, because the beliefs are, we all know the truth. The saying for Aquarius, I love this, is I know. But the saying for Pisces is, I believe. And so the belief systems are all shifting and changing. By the time we get into Aquarius, it's going to be a time when technology takes over and humanity will be in a much better place.
It's so interesting that you're talking about Pisces and Aquarius. There may be some people watching Mindalia TV right now that are familiar with those two words.
Yeah.
Some might not be, so familiar. So those two terms, I mean, Pisces and fish, we understand that. But could you please maybe explain a little bit what Aquarius means? Is it the name of an era, right? Is the name of a group of years? How does that?
Yes, it's a great question. So in the whole cycle of humanity, what we call precession of the equinoxes, the stars are moving, but they don't appear to move in a lifetime because they only move 1 degree back in the zodiac every 72 years. So, but the constellations and the shifts of the stars in the signs are what relative to humanity's experience on Earth. That's the big picture. Now, I take it down to another level where we're looking at the outer planets, which dictate what's going on in society in terms of just the outer picture. It's transpersonal, in other words. It deals with predictions, such as when we go back to the 60s, we had this Uranus-Pluto conjunction, which determined all of the riots, all of the breakdowns of the old in society, progressive growth, newness, rebellion. That was the 60s. And now every time we come to outer planets aspecting one another, there are huge events that are happening, which is coming up here. I might as well inform everyone, we've got a lot coming up astrologically. So you see, I can do world prediction, which I do all the time in my YouTube and in all my conferences. I do world prediction as well as personal prediction. So in the grand scale of things, we're all affected by what's going on in the heavens in terms of like the 60s being such a revolutionary time. What's ahead for us now? There are amazing astrological groupings of stars that really do dictate what's going to be happening on planet Earth. And one that's coming up is for next year, in the year of 2020, 2021, Jupiter and Saturn come together. They come together every 20 years, but there's always something significant. The last time that they were together in the signs that it's going to be in Capricorn, Sagittarius Capricorn, was early 60s, 1960 to 61. And this is going to change politics. It's going to change religion. It's going to change so many things coming up in the world. And we're going to be part of this revolutionary change that's about to occur on planet Earth.
Wow, that's incredible. What would happen if, let's say, the people that run the big companies, the big businesses, and the world started to listen more to what the astrologers have to say?
Well, let me just say this. They used to because, all the popes used to use astrologers. I don't know where they're coming from now that there's something wrong with astrology when the popes used to use astrology in the old times. And, the 3 wise men I always talk about in the Bible, what were they doing? They were following the stars to predict the birth of Christ. So astrology is part of the big picture in terms of giving us guidance as to what's happening in the world. So your question is, what if the world leaders started listening to astrologers? Well, I got to tell you something, Angel. They do. If some of you knew who some of my clients were, you would be shocked. But I can't reveal that, very confidential information. But the fact is, President Reagan used astrology. Remember Nancy Reagan? They used an astrologer. And I want to say something else. Jean Dixon was probably one of the most famous astrologers and psychics in the world. And the Roosevelts used her. Nixon used her. Eisenhower used Jean Dixon. The only one that didn't was President Kennedy. And I might add, I was a very young girl here, child, and at the time when President Kennedy came to Dallas, living here in Dallas, Texas, and the night before Kennedy came to Dallas, I was watching our TV. Jean Dixon came on, and she begged him not to go to Dallas. She said, if you go to Dallas, saw it with my own two eyes, you will be assassinated. And I'm a little girl watching that, and I was like, what? What is this? And then my mother took my sisters out of school the next day to go greet him at the airport, Love Field, and shook his hand. Amazing. And then the unthinkable happened. I always wondered why and how that woman could know that Kennedy should not come to Dallas. And believe it or not, from that day on, I started researching and learning astrology from my teenage years on up. And I've been doing astrology for quite a long time. And I do think that with this knowledge, we can change the future. They say that the best astrologer in the world can never be more than 75% accurate. Why? Because we have 25% free will. And I believe the course in time of things can be altered and changed through awareness, through consciousness, because otherwise, why would we all be puppets just playing out a script with no ability to change the future by right action, by awareness, by knowledge, by truthfulness, by using the heart energy of love? So I know that astrology is the tool that can give us the guidance that can better our lives and also help us grow not only in material ways, because there's different cycles and patterns that can predict when it's time to make your move in business, when it's time to pull back. Also, when it's time to grow within and be spiritual, when the spiritual growth, and all of this is a part of understanding the cycles of our life and our world. And if you can tap into these truths, you can change your life. And that's what I'm all about.
Fantastic. When you were a kid, and you just mentioned one of the most probably unforgettable experiences when you were watching TV the day before President Kennedy was assassinated. But what made you really believe that there's something that is so important for me that I think that I really have to pay so much attention to devote my life to it? What's your story? How did you grow up?
Yeah, because you know what? I always love helping people. And to help people change their life and make it better. And you know this too from the work you do. There is nothing better than when someone comes back to you and says, thank you so much, you changed my life. And just that reaction of joy to be able to really improve someone's life by this understanding of the divine science is so powerful. I mean, I just, I live and breathe astrology. I love it because it really does make me feel connected. And I want to say this too, since I've been into astrology, I really am more aware of who I am and my spirituality, because that's the whole main purpose of why we're all here. Aside from all of our jobs and our families, we're really here to grow spiritually. And that's what Vedic astrology has taught me. What is it in our life that we're here to learn, and what are we here to grow through? And that's what moksha is. I never got back to what moksha actually means. There's certain houses in the chart that represent moksha in astrology. And what moksha actually literally means is spiritual liberation from this world. So as we become more conscious and aware, we will develop beyond this world and grow in oneness to be more connected to the divine. I'm going to call it the divine source. That's what Vedic astrology has taught me. But I'll tell you something else, a story how I got into it was I read a book many years ago called Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. And this was life altering and changing when I read that book, because Yogananda, he brought Eastern tradition and beliefs in meditation to the West. And he taught people how to incorporate this in our daily lives, to be a part of the world, but to be connected spiritually. And when I found out that Paramahansa Yogananda's guru was a Vedic astrologer, I was like, that's it, I got to learn this astrology. Because for many years, I did Western astrology. I didn't know there was anything different, Western tropical astrology. But when I found out that the saints and the gurus of India practice this astrology, I made it my mission to learn it. And it is more profound, it is deeper, and it does connect us to our spiritual truths.
How did you, I mean, what's the first step? I mean, do you have to be a good mathematician? Do you have to have a nice telescope at home so you can reach to the stars? Or afraid to say, you know, to joke about it, but what's the real start? I mean, if someone wants to start a journey to become an astrologer, what would be the right path to do it, or one of the paths to do it?
One thing is, I love to teach. That's my passion more than actually doing readings. I love to teach because I love to see the people when the light bulbs go up and they start to get it. But yes, I do I do teach. I have a university, by the way, University of Vedic Astrology.com, and I teach students how to do what I do. And the way that we do it nowadays, though, instead of the telescopes as they had to in the ancient days, and, it is important to go out in the night sky and recognize what's going on up there, such as even the waxing or the waning of the moon, and where stars come together, you can see them conjoin. But we all have computers today. Thank God. I did charts, though, before computers, and I had to do all the mathematical calculations. Back in the 70s and the 80s. And then all of a sudden computers came out, and I felt like I died and went to heaven, because that took so much time off of the calculations of a chart. So, but because I did charts by hand, I understand what's happening astronomically in the chart. So in astronomy, I teach a little bit of astronomy for astrologers, because you have to really understand what's going on out there, not just what's on a computer and the computer programs. But did I answer your question there?
Well, I mean, you did. If I would like to suggest, or we would like to suggest to show people what's the path to learn it. You said you have a university, so I guess they can go and learn about it.
Yes.
If someone would like to start from scratch, from zero, they are fascinated about the possibility of help other people.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a very important why for everybody to do that. Once they do that, would they start looking for a university to learn from their courses and their face-to-face events, or would they buy a book? Is there any book that you would recommend, like a starting book?
I would recommend
the
mine.
Same one. Okay, well, it's a very well-known book in the spiritual world.
Eastern Astrology for Western Minds is my textbook from my university. But I have a number of books. They're all on my website, which is galacticcenter.org. But looking at the astrology, it is not an easy thing to learn on your own. And back in my day, we didn't have the internet. All we had was these terrible books written by Indians that were very hard to understand. So you had to get a teacher back then. And I became certified in the American Council of Vedic Astrology, and I became an instructor for them. And now I branched off and have my own school of education. But it was tough back then, and we had to find teachers and books. There wasn't the internet. Now there's the internet. Oh my God. And I have a YouTube channel that I have little mini classes on, which is my name, Joni Patry. And I teach little segments. But if somebody's serious, they have to really go through a university of some sort, because it's very, very complicated. But you can get there, and it's fascinating. It's wonderful.
I remember when I was a kid in the newspaper, sometimes, I think in the beginning it was only on Sundays, then it was every day. You would have a prediction, right? Mm-hmm. So every sign for instance, I'm a lion, so or Leo. I don't know what's the right way to say it, but there's like for every one of the signs you see what's going to happen without knowing everybody. How can you possibly?
Well, let me tell you, Angel.
How can you possibly see or say something about all the lions?
I know.
For that particular day. Is it really possible?
No, it's not.
Oh, it's not.
It's not.
Okay.
That's all general. What I do is I take the time of birth, the year.
Thank you.
But I used to write those articles. I used to write for big magazines back in the day.
Okay.
And it was.
Thank you for your honesty.
And I felt kind of like it was a disfavor to astrology to do that. It's the only thing that people knew. And once they would contact me, I'd say, well, wait a minute. No, it's more than just this. Here's what it really is. But it was my way to introduce astrology to the world by being a part of writing for those magazines. Okay. So, but it's like, even in Vedic astrology, when you think you're a lion, Leo, actually, because of precession and the change that has been happening over a long duration of time, your sun will probably revert back to Cancer. So the signs that you're familiar with from Western astrology have actually reverted back to the sign before because the stars are moving. Mm-hmm. This takes all of the shift, and that's what causes the precession in the ages of mankind. But we are all evolving, and it's changing. And once I tapped into the Vedic system, then I truly understand now what astrology is really about, and not just the general personality stuff of Western astrology that is off sometimes by a sign.
So there's a lot onto this.
Yes.
A lot. If you want to be really accurate about the particular analysis or prediction, you really have to thoroughly look onto that particular case.
That's right.
Am I right?
You are so right. Yes.
So you've been so many years helping so many people. What would you say is like the common denominator of everybody that came to you asking for advice? I don't know if advice is the right word, but
yeah, it is the right word. Because in reality, when you look at the chart and you look at the house that deals with astrology, it's the house that deals with advisors. Because in ancient times, remember, astrologers were the advisors to the kings. And that's what the fifth house in astrology is all about. And it's a house of astrology. So looking at that, looking for advice and what people really want, all come to me for, they want to better their life. They want to look at how can I make my life better? How can I make, well, we say there's the usual suspects in astrology: money, relationships, and career. That's what everybody comes. And once in a while, somebody will want to know about their spiritual growth. I'm like, oh my God, this person's real. This person really wants to know and have answers. But everyone wants to know, when am I going to make that money? When am I going to get that job? And when am I going to fall in love and get married? Of course, people want to know this. This is part of life. And with astrology, we can see the cycles of when these things should happen, or when the energy is so strong that this is the most likely time that these events will occur. And people need this information. And I'll tell you something that's probably the most important thing, is that through astrology, I can give people hope, especially when they're going through a rough time. When somebody is down and out and they think things cannot be worse, I can see when the cyclic change is going to happen. And I'll say, just wait, in 6 months, you're going to be here and your whole life is going to change and be different. And that keeps them going. And usually they'll come back in a year for an update and go, oh my God, thank God I listened to you, because my whole life changed and I had no idea that this was possible. So I believe what I'm able to give people in the hardest times is hope. And that's empowering to do.
Let's say someone comes to you and you tell them in 6 months you're going to find the love of your life.
Right.
But you still have 6 months.
Yeah.
So you give them hope, but 6 months. Oh my God. It's 6
well,
months.
I got to tell you, sometimes it's more than 6 months. It's like, I'm sorry, but it's going to be a year and a half or something. And they're like, I just have to say, here's where you need to focus. That's not to be your focus right now because it's not time for that. Remember, this is about timing. If anything I can give to people is hope with timing of their lives and events. So maybe they want to get married and that's their focus, but no, they're supposed to be focusing in on their career right now. The marriage maybe will come through their career because that's where they're going to meet somebody. And I can tell all these little nuances and intricacies too, where you'll meet someone and how, and it gives them hope. And many times you may think, oh, you're in control of things, but no, sometimes you don't even realize how these things are going to happen. I just know the timing of when they're going to happen.
Wow. Everything is fine? Okay.
Yes, everything is perfectly fine. I wanted to ask you if you guys are ready to start a Q&A session.
Absolutely. We are. I just wanted to make a final question. Thank you, Mirna.
Absolutely.
So the final question is, during 6 months, as we are part of a system, is there anything that we can do like to accelerate that's supposed to happen in 6 months? Is that something that we can do like, okay, I know this is going to happen. Maybe I shouldn't be obsessed about that and work on another area, but is there anything we can do to accelerate that change?
Some people definitely believe that.
Okay.
Sometimes I think, things are going to happen in their divine time and you can't force it because it's just, the law of cycles in the universe. It's like, you can't force something sometime. You know what happens if you do. It just doesn't work out, right?
Absolutely.
So, but in Vedic astrology, they also believe in remedial measures, which means that you can wear certain gemstones or you can, change your diet or do specific things, even mantras or prayers to change things. And for the most part, I do believe in mantra and prayer and going within and connecting. And that can really help shift the energy that you might be stuck or blocked. Many people, I can see blocks in times of their lives. So it's probably a time for them to go within and to be connected that will unleash some of the blocks. But there's a lot of things to work with to help shift energy.
Excellent. So, Mirna, we are all yours. Let's go for the questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, let's start with the questions then. Before starting, of course, we remind our audience that the format is word question in caps, the place where you're seeing us from, and the actual questions. So the first question we have, can we override a pattern established in the stars?
And that's kind of like what you asked just now. Can we override? I believe when you know the patterns that you're here to override, that yes, that's what your life's about, to overcome these obstacles, these patterns from the past. Now, sometimes this takes changing your behavior so much that it feels unnatural, but it's exactly what you have to do. Many times people are prone to dysfunctional relationships, abusive relationships. They've got to change what is within them that is causing this pattern. And by the shift and awareness, and especially through understanding the chart, you can override these difficulties.
Thank you. Next question. Is it really important to find compatibility between two zodiac signs in order to find a partner?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I definitely believe that there's going to be compatibility, but it's not just about the zodiac signs. It's going to be about the whole chart, putting them together, seeing where their moons and their suns and their Mercury's, Venus, all the planets have to be related in a certain way. And you can see someone's chemistry, how they work together. What are the things for them to overcome in a relationship? And what are the things for them to excel on because they work so well together in a certain way? But I definitely believe in compatibility using two different horoscopes together.
Let me a follow-up question. What would happen if, when a couple gets engaged, what would happen if they, from the very beginning, they got their charts of both of them? Mm-hmm. Could that improve that relationship moving forward?
Oh, yes. As a matter of fact, if people will listen, it definitely has an effect on changing lives. But remember this, in India, they arrange marriages based on their horoscopes, putting them together.
Excellent. And when she asked about, again, relationships, which is, as you said before, is one of the most common questions that you get asked. Why would you say people are so concerned, or why is it so difficult for people to have, successful relationships? Why is it so complicated?
Why is it so complicated? Well, probably because there's many things that people need to learn about themselves through relationships. And people sometimes are not willing to learn. And we have to learn about ourselves through others. I believe other people are a reflection of ourselves in many respects, whether we think, that person's doing it all. There's always two that create the relationship. And I think the horoscope can definitely tell you what needs to be changed, what can be worked on, and how the relationship can better fit and work together. But most of all, I believe that we cannot be happy in this life if we don't have relationships, because it's what brings us together, opens our heart. It's what, creates family and security. This is what relationships are all about. This is what we have to learn through, and this is what gives us our joy and happiness in life.
Let's talk about another kind of relationship, which is the relationship with our kids. Can we actually plan our parenthood so that we can have the perfect kids, to have the entire family in harmony? I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh, it does to me. It does to me. I'll tell you why. Well, first of all, I have a lot of women who come to me when they're trying to get pregnant, and I can tell when the most likely time is that they'll conceive and they'll have a baby. So there's different cycles with that. Particularly, it deals with Jupiter. Jupiter represents children and pregnancy. So I can see that. And the other thing is, I have 3 sons. Okay. Now, the first, for some reason, the first 2 I had to have C-section. Just could never have them normally, even though I tried. So the third one, my doctor says, why don't we just plan it? And I said, that's a great idea, because I'm going to plan it astrologically. Might as well, right? And
why wouldn't you, Joni?
I know, and I did. But, we think we're in so much control. And a lot of people go, they go, I was born by C-section, or I was born 2 months premature. Does this mean that this birth time doesn't work for me? And my answer to that is, regardless of the situation, you're born when you're supposed to be born. So I'm thinking I'm in control of the situation, but I'm really not. This child was meant to be born when he was born and be who he was meant to be. And of course, he's a fabulous kid. All 3 of my sons are absolutely remarkable. Does that sound like a doting mother?
It's perfect. It's perfect. We have to say, by the way, I didn't say that before, but Joni has been so generous with Mindalia TV team today, that we are actually, the footage of this interview is being done at her office, which is at her home. So we are really blessed and thankful that she was able to do that, and we've been able to also get to know part of her family. So, thank you very much for being so generous, and we're really grateful for that. Let's continue before Mirna comes with new questions. Whenever you're ready, just show up, and we'll be ready for you too. But oh, you are okay. Go ahead then.
Okay, next question. Can we see past incarnations through our astrological chart?
Can we see past incarnations?
Correct.
So looking into the future incarnations, is that what I'm hearing?
Oh, or looking, is there a way to look into the past with an
into the past? Yes, most definitely. Now, I can't tell you who you were in terms of name, but I can tell you exactly what your issues, what you've come here to overcome from past incarnations. And that's the most important thing, to know what the issues are that you're here to overcome, because that's the sum accumulation of what your chart is all about. It's about who you are based on your past and what you're here to overcome. So that does relate to some of the instances and things, such as in relationships, that occurred in past lives.
Well, let me make a follow-up question. So, do you have to be a psychic to be an astrologer?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
Not necessarily. You are trained to read the symbols, the signs, but I have to say, when you're looking at a chart, intuition and psychic ability does come forth.
Okay.
And we all have it, though. We do, if we'll open and be aware to it. And I believe the chart does that for us.
Okay.
Thank you. Next question. What happens if we prevent an event that was supposed to help us grow?
What was the first part?
What happens if we prevent an event that was supposed to make us grow?
Then we have to come back and repeat it. You can never prevent or get away from any kind of karmic lesson, because that's what usually is happening here on Earth, is we keep repeating the same things over and over and over again because we refuse to learn. So the answer is no, you're always going to have to learn your karmic lessons.
We've used we've used the term karma and karmic all the time. Would you mind explaining the audience what karma and karmic mean?
Karma means past deeds. And so it's like what we're here to experience and grow through based on our past deeds. And that doesn't necessarily just mean in past lifetimes. It can be in this lifetime as well. You know what the saying is, what you sow, you reap. So what you put out there, you will get back. And that goes another whole nother gambit that we could talk about for hours. But the thing is that I believe in what we feel and what we think we create in our lives. So we're in control of these things and we can change them. The chart just helps us be better aware of what we're doing and how to change so that we can cut the time of of having to go such a long route to not understand what it is we need to grow through and what our lessons are. But absolutely, karma is the thing that we're here to experience and grow through. What we, and sometimes just our makeup of how we believe and how we feel can create our karma. So being aware of it, we can change it. So karma is past deeds that we're here to grow through and change. And like I said, it doesn't have to be all these millions of past lives. It could be just what you did yesterday that can create what's happening today.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Minda.
Thank you, Mrs. Patry. Next question is, if we don't know the time we were born at, can our chart be accurate?
Wonderful question, because there's a few ways that we get around that. One is all the planets are the same for a day pretty much. The moon moves the fastest. It moves like a degree every 2 hours. So what we're trained to do is look at all the planets on that day, plus we make the moon the ascendant, which the ascendant is what we draw up to find according to the time of birth. But we can use the moon because the moon in a chart reflects what you're thinking and feeling. So from using the moon as the beginning of the chart, we can dictate from somebody that just has a day. We can do that. But another means that we can do is I call rectifying a chart. Rectifying a chart is when somebody gives us like all of their big life events, like, moves, deaths, births, anything big that changed your life. And from all those events, I go back and I can rectify and figure out when a person's born. Now, it's very, very time consuming and it's very tedious. It's not my favorite thing to do, but it is possible, and I do have that service.
Wow.
Oh, sounds like accounting. Next question. It is, throughout the year, what is the best time to start new projects and ideas?
Well, it depends on each and every individual's chart because it's going to be different for everyone. It's not just January's new beginnings. It depends on where all your planets are and, the transiting planets. And there's also something else called the dasha cycles that begin at birth and it unfolds the whole lifetime. This is a system that's used only in Vedic astrology, but basically I can give people that information based solely on their birth charts because it's different for everyone.
Thank you so much. And we are reaching the end of the Q&A. The last question, what do you think happens when we die? Can that be predicted in a chart?
Well, nobody knows for sure. Let me just say that. We can say that we know, but I have had many glimpses to the other side based on just being more spiritually aware. You are more connected and you do have a more knowingness. And I have connected to loved ones through dreams, through visions, and there are things that definitely cannot be, that I've seen, that cannot be seen unless you have sort of like an inner insight. And I just really think the way astrology hooks into that is it's made me more aware spiritually. It's made me more connected, where I get the visions and what happens when we die. But I believe it's a time that we lose the body. We go into a spiritual realm. But I believe that we always come back to learn and grow through our connectedness and through the power of love. That's the bottom line, where we're all here to learn and grow through. That's our spiritual purpose here.
Excellent. I would like definitely to thank you, Myrna. I would like you to let everybody know on Mindalia TV, how can we and where can we find you?
Oh, wow. Okay, so my main website is galacticcenter.org.
Okay.
And that connects to my university and to all the conferences that we have. We're going to have a conference here in Dallas every single year in October. And we just finished one. It was an amazing experience. And I'm even selling the whole recording of the conference. It just happened in October, but it will happen every year in October here in Dallas. And my website, galacticcenter.org, will have information for that. The university website is universityofvedicastrology.com, and this is for people who want to learn how to do what I do, which I have 40 videos that you learn from. You get a private tutor. You will work with me individually on how to do astrology towards the last part of the semester. It takes about a year to complete this university. And the other thing is, if people want to check into the conference we just had, we're going to use the same website, which is futureofastrology.com.
Oh, that sounds fascinating. The future of astrology.
Yeah,
oh my God.
I know.
So is astrology continuously in evolution?
Absolutely.
It is?
Yes.
So do you like find more things, or how does that work?
Oh my God, now you've opened up another can of worms. Well, we're always discovering different planets and different things. Everything is related, even though we focus in on the most important things, which are the planets that are visible to the naked eye. But, pulsars, quasars, comets, all these things do affect and are signs and symbols for humanity. So it's always evolving, it's always growing. And what I do with astrology also is I look at the economy and what's going to be happening in the economy, as well as what's going to be happening in the governments, and even down to cryptocurrency. All of these different things are relative to prediction in astrology. So in my last conference, I gave some amazing predictions that this year is going to be one of the biggest years of change ever. And yes, and you can actually buy the recording of this conference. And so it's futureofastrology.com, and you can find out how to purchase this entire recording like you're there at the conference. And we had people say it was the best conference they ever attended. Wow. They've been to many. And I was like, thank you, because we all came from the heart. It was great.
Well, definitely, we have been touching our hearts, both Myrna and myself, and probably the Mindalia TV's audience today. Having you, it's been a fascinating 1 hour together. So we really appreciate you. Thank you very much for everything that you do every single day for so many people all over the world, because we know you have clients all over the world. Mm-hmm. You help people all over the world. So thank you very much for being
Angel,
with us today. And again, this is Angel Rebo with Mindalia TV today, with Joni Patry. Amazing interview, and so much wisdom, so many lessons that we have learned today with you. So thank you everybody for being with us today, and hope to see you soon. Goodbye.